Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The Board of Selectmen is called to order December 12th, 2024 at 6 p.m. Before we move on, would everybody join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So, item 3, approve the November 27, 2024 Selectmen meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second.
I have a first and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? 5-0. Public forum. This is an opportunity for anyone who wants to address the Board of Selectmen with any issue that is not on the agenda. Is anybody here tonight that has anything on their mind that's not on the agenda? How about out in TV land?
No hands raised.
Wow. Okay. 5, excuse me, Town Hall Building Committee update and recommendation on site. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good seeing you.
Good to see everyone here tonight. I have to put in presentation mode for me.
Can you guys hear Alan all right? Or do we need to move the mic?
So you hear me okay?
Yep.
I'm Alan Evelyn, a member of the Town Hall Committee. The focus of this meeting tonight is to provide an overview of the Town Hall Building Committee's work to date, review project sites that we've considered, and provide a recommendation to the Select Board. So I just wanted to say first that I grew up in Kennebunkport. I actually went to school in the building that is located where the current town hall is on 6 Elm Street. A town hall that was built in 1960. In 1954, I began attending a second school in Kennebunkport where all of the remote schools, Goose Rocks Beach, Cape Porpoise, Wiles District, Town Hall, and Village School came together in a brand new consolidated school, and it was a symbol of pride in the community, something that the town, every citizen of the town took pride in. I think of the fact that we went from those little tiny schools to a consolidated school, and I hope that that such pride going forward could be part of what we have at some point in the new town hall. And so I would say tonight, I hope we can begin to move in that direction. So the town hall committee members, you can go to the next slide. Residents, most of the town hall committee members are here tonight. Deborah Bauman, April Dufault, myself, David Graham, Kevin McConnell is not in town, Tim Patterson, Judy Phillips, Richard Smith, and John Ware. Our Board of Select people, John Dykstra and Mary Beth Gilbert, have been on the committee since, well, most of the year. And then town management, Lori Smith and Yanina Nicholas, our consultants from Sebago Techniques, Owens McCullough, and Michael Hayes from Grant Hayes Associates. Next one. So this committee, the new building committee, was formed in early 2024, and the charge was to review what happened with the defeated, the actual warrant that was defeated in November. And so this new town-wide survey was placed to gather feedback from the public after the warrant had been defeated. The committee has evaluated the current municipal buildings in Kennebunkport as well as alternative sites. We've been investigating efficiencies to optimize the configuration and reduce the size of the building. So on September 19, we held a public meeting to discuss findings and our progress to date. And I will say that in parallel, there was a village fire station planning study in anticipation of an eventual move to per diem firefighters. So the majority of the respondents who voted against, next slide, please, who voted against the warrant acknowledged that the town needs a new town office. The major areas of concern that were expressed in that survey, number one was cost. It was over 70% of the respondents. The size, close to 50%. And then other considerations, environmental, energy, and the location. Next slide. So we have analyzed all of the potential alternate site locations, and we reviewed opportunities and constraints of those 5 locations, and we have rated the 5 locations, which I'll put up in a second. Relative to the building, there was a refined floor plan that has been developed to gain efficiencies through putting together common areas, having more shared spaces, a partial second floor, and also more flexible and functional meeting spaces. The original proposal from 2023 was 12,600 square feet. The revised plan, which has been put forward, it's now at 10,900 square feet, or a 13% reduction in size. We've also, and by the way, this is an ongoing work that will take place in the coming months, 2025. We also have met with subject matters on green energy. We've held informational meetings with Thornton Tomasetti, Allied Engineering, and Revision Energy. Next slide. So these are the sites that were considered in addition to the village parcel. There are a total of 5. The site where the existing town office is, 6 Elm Street. Next slide. Adjacent to the police station in Cape Porpoise on Main Street, the School Street property, also known as the McCabe property, adjacent to Parsons Field. Next slide. The village parcel, which we had previously considered, as well as the village fire station parcel at 32 North Street. So bring up the next slide, please. So there are 9 areas of comparison. The 5 sites were considered and rated. Each one of them was rated either favorable, caution, or unfavorable. And so each was rated versus the other. As it turned out, the 32 North Street location here at the Village Fire Station was the highest rated site. The village parcel was the second highest rated site. And for a number of reasons, the other sites, the school street, the police station, and the existing town hall, were not considered favorable relative to these two sites. Next slide. So there were two layouts that our consultants did for the village parcel and one for the village fire station. There are shoreland zoning restrictions on the village parcel, so that there has to be a certain area to the left of the proposed town hall location, which we have to be very careful about because we would be infringing upon the shoreland zoning restrictions. Either of these sites is basically all new construction. There would have to be a parking area, and considerable hardscape in order to get the requisite number of parking spaces, driveways, entry points, etc. Sewer and water need to be brought to the site, substantial cost. And if we continue and desire to use a lot of solar energy on the site, we must include ground solar, although this is something that is not really part of the current bill plan. This would be in addition to the current bill plan. Next slide. This is the rendition for the village fire station at North Street, a town office which joins to the current village fire station. This utilization would keep the current parking area of 100 cars in place. There would be an area of additional parking spaces that would be required for use of the town hall as well as employee parking. We would at the same time add some additional spaces for first responders with an eye towards the fact that we're going to have at some point per diem firefighters. So the development costs in this site are significantly lower because water, sewer, electric, everything is here. We also preserve, or let's say in total, the amount of hardscape here versus hardscape on the village parcel is significantly less because we're not building an entire parking area with new driveways. Next slide. So on our 9/19 meeting, which we held here, we had a number of comments and questions. And then there were actually several comments and questions which came in following the 9/19 meeting, and they were incorporated into the review of all of these issues. 5 of them were about the site, 6 were about the building design, 4 about energy, and 4 about other particular areas. Next slide. So these are some specific comments. One individual brought up, in fact, more than one individual brought up the synergy of the village fire station site with utilizing the existing parking area, having available sewer and water connection. There were questions about what are the plans for drainage at the village fire station. There's concern about the traffic impact on North Street that would be different if the village fire station is selected than the 51 North Street village parcel. And then also there have been several comments that placement on the village parcel would be a step in shaping the future of Kennebunkport. Next slide. So site development, that's a big thing. Could be about 50% greater, depending on which of the two choices that are made for getting into the village parcel. It could be 30% to 50% greater than the village fire station. The village fire station also will require some additional stormwater drainage that's over and above the work that is currently planned to be done in the coming months, well in advance of any construction here. Village parcel, again, requires, and one of the cost drivers there is the amount of building that has to be done and the creation of infrastructure, hookups, parking areas. Benefit of shared space, if the village fire station is chosen, there's certainly some synergy relative to our firefighters. The public meeting area in the new town hall could be certainly used for training. Instead of them going out in the parking area in January and February, they'd be able to come in here and have a good wide open training area for the firefighters. This also has additional benefits for community meeting space. Another benefit that was pointed out at that meeting was in terms of solar capability, having this site with the village fire station and the new town hall building here, there would be much greater roof-mounted solar capability by having the two combined. And that would, based on the new restrictions on solar energy, we'd be able to apply that to the entire municipal structure. Last slide. So I probably should have said at the beginning, the focus tonight is not about a building. The focus is about a site. And so the energy and effort that was put in mostly to focus on our evening with and presentation to the select board is to make a recommendation on a site. The committee's unanimous recommendation was 32 North Street here. So we're requesting approval to continue working to refine building design and engage in cost estimation for this site. And by the way, there were two committee members who recused themselves from voting on the site recommendation. Any questions from the select board?
Any questions from the board?
We were always concerned. Oh, right. Thank you. We're always concerned about parking, and I know you added space, but there's a whole section of grass that is there. Right? You come in and the parking went this way behind the building?
Do you want me to put the drawing up?
Yeah.
Sure.
Can you go back to that slide? Okay.
Yeah. So where you have the parking in the back,
Yeah.
why couldn't we use more of that grassy area? If you're going to break through, you might as well get rid of that grass and then have more parking. I know
Well-
I'm always concerned about parking because of downtown.
Yeah. We're
I
trying
mean,
to,
it would add,
we're trying to add parking with a minimal disruption of hardscape, of landscape. So the idea is as few of square footage of hardscape that we can make, accomplish what we have here with the building design. And that gives us an additional spaces, but generally that would be for employees and anyone having business here.
But
We don't want to add.
you're taking away parking from.
No, we're not.
No, we're not.
100 spaces, none of that is being disturbed.
Yeah. Can I stand, can I stand and,
No, I know.
yeah.
You
so-
don't have to. You don't have to.
But an important point is, to maintain the stuff for the employees, we wanted this to make sure it was a one-way.
And,
So we
and,
didn't
and
have,
my concern is if you're going to be doing all that work back there, why not add parking places? Because certainly Kennebunkport needs parking. Just my recommendation.
Thank you.
Any more questions?
well, I have, after the questions, John and I have some comments too to add.
Any questions in TV land? Any hands raised?
No hands raised.
Alan, I think you've done a great presentation. It all looks great. You guys have done a good job, and I'm glad that you brought it forward, just to give us a heads up of what's going on. I'm definitely in favor of continuing.
Yeah.
Excuse me, were you going to ask if there were any questions from here?
Yes.
For TV land, I'm just curious.
Do you have any questions?
Yes, sir.
Well, come right up
All right.
and just tell me your name and where
Yes,
you live.
my name is Vernon, Vernon, Moore, Moore. I live at 9 West Street. Unlike Alan, I did not walk uphill both ways to go to school here in Kennebunkport, but I have lived.
We can tell by your,
That's right. I have lived here year-round. I'm a year-round resident in that neighborhood right
Okay.
over there.
Whereabouts do you live?
9 West Street, the corner of Oak and
Okay.
West. My questions have to do with, I saw a whole lot of information about it will cost more, 50%, figures thrown out like that. So what I'm wondering is, do we have exact cost?
Not yet.
Okay, and that is my concern, because I did not see an engineer study. I did not see geological studies. I did not see hydrology studies related to how much it's going to cost. I saw a couple of little catch basins and some under filter kinds of things, but how much is it going to cost to keep the water that is going to be there, the storm water, from coming down into the neighborhood where I have lived for 32 years? We asked the same question 20-some years ago when this place was built, and there was no engineering study done, and now we all suffer the consequences of that. I know that the town, after 20-some years of asking for it, is coming in to look at what might be done in our neighborhood to deal with the incredible amount of storm water runoff that we have and the flooding that we have. But I see nothing that ties in what we're doing to this, and whether or not this study, because these figures that Alan threw out showed all of the cost over here
I know,
across
but
the street.
he just wanted to bring us forward on where he thought,
But
where
the
the
site-
committee thought was the best place to build it.
But
So
the
now our
site-
next step, I don't mean
Okay,
to
I
interrupt you,
apologize,
but
I
our next
apologize.
step is to see what the cost may be. We haven't got that far.
Can I
But
add?
we're
that's
working on it.
He asked you to select a site.
Yeah,
He
can-
asked you to vote on a site.
Yeah.
And once you vote on the site, you're already locked into looking at this site. I'm asking, before you vote on that site, to hold off until you have real numbers to see what it will in fact cost, because I've seen nothing about what happens if there's ledge here. What happens if the groundwater is much higher than you think it is and you have more difficulty with retaining the water on this site? What happens to all those things? Those costs aren't in here. And that gives me pause when you start claiming that something costs more than another place does. And I have to say, I went back and looked at something from July of 2020, and if you will indulge me for a moment, it was why I supported the purchase of the village parcel. These were the reasons we were going to buy and spend $10 million for the village parcel. Provide future town essential services, including municipal facilities, to enhance the Kennebunkport experience. When are we ever going to do anything on that piece of property if we keep saying it costs too much to develop it? It costs too much to run sewer and water there. When you sold the idea, maybe not you, but the people who were on the select board at that time, sold us on the idea that we needed that property for future expansion. And here's a wonderful opportunity to put something on that property to start the process, rather than putting it off and putting it off and having a $10 million white elephant that just sits there. It just sits there. And I do appreciate that 2 members of the committee recused themselves, but I've been on committees where I've recused myself, and I held a hell of a lot of sway while I was on the committee. I didn't vote, but I had a lot of influence. So my question is, I know there were 2 members who are abutters over here, excuse me. Were there any abutters from my neighborhood, which is going to be impacted much greater putting the place here than if it's put across the street? I want a new town hall, but I also want to continue to live in my house and my neighbors to live in their houses without the risk of even more water coming down onto us.
Right.
Because that lowers our property values. Then we come to you and say, you should be lowering our taxes if you're lowering our property values, because what you're doing is putting us in danger
Right.
by adding another building to this small site. And the reason that I'm excited, folks, is because I've been asking this for 20-some years,
Yeah.
trying to get an answer, and we can't get them. And now we're going to do something else by voting tonight, and I would ask you not to vote tonight, but to vote tonight on something that you don't have the full data on. At least that's not what I can find anywhere. And I would also ask you to go back and please look at what you sold us when you told us why we needed to buy the town parcel. Thank you.
Thank you.
So,
Is there any more questions from
well,
the public?
Can we give some response back?
Yes,
to some-
absolutely.
Okay. So,
2 hands raised in Zoom now.
so if we can just sort of, we're not going to probably alleviate all your concerns right now, but at least we can address some, or at least give you some of the thought process behind it. So for example, for the difference between the delta between the 2 sites on the water, on the development, it actually would be greater. Owens, our engineer in this project, our consultant, took into account the drainage required for actually the increase of hardscape on this site. So that's in the site costs of the development of the fire station, and it's also in the site costs for the village parcel. So we would have had, if we didn't take into account drainage from this, on this site, we would have had a greater than 30 to 50% increase between the site development costs.
And we have that data with cost of potential problems that might happen, and
We have, according to Owens, our engineering consultant, when he's looked at the runoff that will happen because of the footprint that we're taking off of absorbent ground and putting hardscape on it, how to, what's going to be the cost of handling that water. And he's also been working with Eric because we, as you've alluded to, the town is working within the neighborhood to help alleviate some of the issues that were caused a long time ago from the runoff. So I think, does it answer everything you brought up? In terms, I think it's directionally right. We have a cost in there, and then we also, within the costs for both sites, we have contingencies, right? So if we did run into a problem, excuse me, that would be part of the contingency issue. You're correct on the village parcel, but I think what the town hall committee, and I don't want to speak for the whole committee, but I think part of the thing the town committee was grappling with is that the town has asked the committee to go off and investigate, what would be another option based on this survey. There were questions back about why would we be wanting to develop the village parcel. As Alan pointed out, the number one concern was cost. And so the committee really did that matrix, did some due diligence, and looked at the light of cost being the number one driver of why it got voted down. So I think the committee didn't look, I don't think the committee put onus on the fact that the town has purchased a village parcel a while ago, and this was the intent of the parcel. That actually already went to vote, right? That town hall on that village parcel went to vote and got denied. So now the committee's saying, okay, here's another site that actually will cost less to develop. And then the committee's working on coming up with a building itself that also costs less. And we are very cognizant of the water issue that is brought up in all our committee meetings since the very beginning. And we were hoping to, that Owens, as least our engineering consultants, is reviewing that and looking at, and we have it on the books. So I don't know, John, if you want to add anything. So I'm not sure.
So then probably what we need to do is get our own hydrologist to get a baseline now, and then when we come back to you in 5 to 10.
Can you come
I
to the
said,
mic?
is that we get our own hydrologist to do a baseline now, and then when I come back and talk to you in 5 or 10 years and tell you about the increase that's occurring because the mistakes that were made here, then would our voice be a little stronger? I'm saying that somewhat tongue in cheek, but it's when we raise issues about the impact, it always is, no, that really isn't the case, and you're the first person who really has admitted that this did create difficulties in our neighborhood. You really are the first person. So do we need to get our own data to show you the impact in order for our voices to be heard?
So I just want to make sure that, I understand where you're coming from, and I heard it in your voice, and I understand property. I understand, the consideration that we are trying to take into account of people's property. And so I don't want you to feel that your voice is not being heard. I believe your voice is being heard.
I think you hear me, and I think you hear our neighborhood. I just don't know. I just don't know that the outcome shows that case. It took us 20-some years to get something to be done, and we appreciate Eric helping us out. It's taken us 20-some years to get there. I don't know that I'll be around in 20-some years to be able to raise it the next time, but I don't want to take up all the time.
Yeah,
I think the
last.
concern.
No, I think that's
Yes.
very well.
Yeah.
I think my last point is that I hope you do hear that we are taking the drainage into consideration. So it is whether it's at the level that I'm not sure at what level, but it is being seriously considered. It's being worked by Owens, our engineering consultant. It is on the table. It is in consideration of this site pick. And so I'm hoping that Owens, our consultant, is giving us the guidance needed, I'm sure it is, in order to deal with the extra runoff that we'll be getting from the hardscape added to this site. Anything
John, do you have anything?
Well, notwithstanding, I think, some very legitimate concerns that were brought up by Mr. Moore, I have a little bit of a concern about the amount of capital spending that the town is going to be faced with in 2025 and shortly after that. I'm cognizant of the fact that we have some real needs at the public works area. I toured that the other day, and the shed for keeping our equipment dry, millions of dollars total investment equipment is crumbling. Something needs to be done for the dry storage area. We have a number of additional concerns that are going to be calling on our capital expenses, not least of which is our fire station in terms of the per diem potential and building out the future there as well. So just in a general sense, I wonder if it might be advisable to maybe hold off on a vote today to put this in stone as the area. We've certainly, and we've gotten a tremendous presentation by the committee in terms of the good work that was done and all the reasons why, in the general scheme, if we're moving forward or when we are moving forward with the project, this location has a lot of merit, notwithstanding the work and the responsible work that has to be done to look at what additional water might be caused to flow into adjacent properties. So I wonder if postponing this to be able to measure it in the light of our full capital commitment that's going to be coming down the road might be a wise consideration. I just would propose that to the board for discussion.
I
David?
would, I agree with John to some extent. I think the town has got some issues that we're all gonna have to face in terms, the Public Works Department and the facility out on Beechwood is in need of repair, or it needs to be looked at and what that's gonna do. Unfortunately, I think this happens in a lot of communities where public buildings just get neglected or they need to expand and then everything comes due at the same time. So I think we do need a new town hall. This site in some ways does make some sense. I'm not opposed to this site, but I am concerned that other things have started to pop up in terms of the Public Works Department and some other buildings that are gonna need to be addressed. And I think we have some huge capital needs. I just don't want it to be that we're in a situation where we're putting out to the voters all these needs and everything gets rejected. So maybe, to your point, holding it off just for a little bit to make sure, see what else is coming and make a more informed decision as to what project needs to move first, potentially
I
first.
do want to underscore that I'm totally for a new town hall.
Yes, and I am for that
We
too.
need
Yeah.
a
New town hall.
So please don't interpret my concerns as trying to delay a decision because I'm not for a new town hall. I just, I think there's a lot of moving parts, some of them relatively new, surfacing in terms of needs, that I'd like to be able to consider before this.
What about you, Sheila?
I'd like to see it continue. I don't know if you can do that without having a site.
So,
I think what we
Alan?
could do is, we've heard some feedback from, some of the residents, so we could go back and work with Owens, the engineering consultant.
Yeah.
And make sure, do some more due diligence there and make sure from what the committee heard this evening that we've got that covered and it's, to the level that we're all comfortable with and, that's already in the site cost. I'm sure after the meeting tonight, just like we did the last public meeting, we'll also get other feedback from the town. And so it would probably be good for the committee just to, to review that. We do have a little time lap right now, maybe a couple months before the architect of this is going to be available for us to be working with the committee. So the committee can be doing work like that. The capital review that John spoke about will happen to this board in the month of January. So to David's point, the board can come back and after we review all that, we can, talk within a meeting about are there certain priorities. And I think then we'll have a broader spectrum, as David and John have alluded to, about the spend and where does this fit. And just to make sure that before we have the committee go off and do some deep dive on cost analysis and all that, and building design at a deeper level. So I feel like we have a month or two.
Okay.
But the committee can still stay active. It's just the fact they'll be working on maybe slightly different things than what Alan had proposed.
Okay.
is there anybody else?
You had people, there's people on Zoom.
Is there anybody else? No? Go ahead.
Nina, you can speak. You have to unmute yourself.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I'd like to point out that while I'm not
Can you,
considered in
can you tell us your name and where you live?
that, Nina Perlmutter, I'm at 13 Lock Street. I'd like to point out that while I'm not in the abutter list for a fire station, Village Town Hall, I am in the Lock West and Oak Street neighborhood, which is an historic neighborhood, the oldest one in this town, and is on the historic register. When you had that meeting at the fire station about the Village Town Hall, I did get up and speak, and I asked a few questions and didn't get really good answers to it. And I listened to the presentations. After that, I put together a memo of November 10th, and I sent it to the town manager, Laurie Smith, and to the committee chair, Alan Evelyn. And I don't know whether the Board of Selectmen members has had a chance to see that, but I would ask that Laurie Smith and/or Alan Evelyn forward that memo to the Board of Selectmen. I have quite a few comments on there. I too am very concerned about, why you purchased the village parcel. And I was very happy to see that the town did. They needed a large piece of town land for recreation, for what I thought was going to be a new town hall, and also for an east-west drive that is needed so badly. One of the biggest problems I see on North Street in putting a town hall anywhere along there is the traffic buildup in the summer. And that makes it almost impossible for members of the Lock, Oak, and West Street neighborhood to get in and out because the traffic backs up past Lock Street. And I feel that adding a town hall at the fire stations is only going to exacerbate that. Whereas on the village parcel, it's not going to be so impactful. One of the speakers at that meeting pointed out that he had trouble getting his truck with trailer into the present town hall and parking there so that he could talk to the code enforcement officer. The parking lot that you show with this particular town hall is not going to make it easy for anybody with a truck with a trailer to park. And as far as putting in more hardscape, I want to make a couple of points there. One, that only adds to the flooding. Two, one of the most beautiful things that people see when they come down North Street, headed to Dock Square, is that green that we have right now with an iconic elm tree on it. And 2 new trees that have been planted by the Shade Tree Committee. If you put a town hall there, you wipe out most of that green. And the little row of trees that they have presented there in that picture would not grow well there because what they don't show are overhead wires coming along there. We just had to take out 2 maples that were in those wires and that were probably dying because of entanglement with them and having to be cut back so often. So I really ask that you look at this in terms of costs, because I have a farmhouse that I'm renovating and I'm finding that those renovation costs are higher, even without, all the lines of water lines and things like that that are already present on my property. I'm finding the costs of that renovation are just as high or higher than building a new building. I don't think you're going to find that that's really a cost cutter to expand the fire station. And as far as the comment that was made that the firefighters, would have a common building, where they could meet and so forth, there's nothing wrong with walking across the street to another meeting site. I mean, it's right. If you build the village town hall across the street on the village parcel, all they have to do is walk across the street. That's not a problem for firefighters. I'm a little distressed in the way that this has been handled, by the way. I see a lot of bias. When this first came up, and we had a meeting years ago about putting in the road east-west there and the town hall, the abutters were upset that they weren't on the committee. And I agreed with them. If you're going to have a town hall or a road being put in the village parcel, it helps to have an abutter on the committee to tell you what the problems are, what they see every day. But putting 2 abutters of the village parcel onto a committee that is doing site selection, to me, shows I question that, and I question their influence on the committee as well. For example, in the Kennebunkport, somebody put an article in there saying that at the meeting that we had, that the the general consensus was that the village parcel was the right site. That was not true. If you go back and look at that meeting, I don't know whether it was videotaped at all, but that was definitely not true. When I got up at that meeting, I questioned whether a traffic study had been done, and the answer was no. So I don't know how they determined that this was a good site for traffic, because to me, it's not. It's just going to add more traffic around if you put it around the village, at the fire station. There had been no traffic study done. And anyone who lives in this area knows what happens in the summer. This is the busiest road in Kennebunkport, except for going through Dock Square. And the stop sign at Main Street and Spring Street, excuse me, causes that traffic to back up, and back up severely in the summer. So I think before you make any decision, and I really ask you to hold off, that you do a proper traffic study. And that's all the comments I'm going to make. I hope you look at the memo that I provided. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in TV land?
No other raised hands.
No other raised
Susan
hand?
just raised her hand.
What's that?
Susan Graham just raised her hand.
Yep.
Susan, you can speak. You have to unmute yourself.
Very well. Make it brief. I agree with everyone who's including John Dykstra, good leadership, John, to postpone your decision. I would like to comment that you should consider beyond cost. The planning board is going to be looking at many factors that maybe haven't been the focus of the committee, but you may experience some difficulty moving this through the planning board process, not the least of which is that you're trying to fully develop a piece of property that's within a residential zone where the lot coverage maximum is quite low. That's all I'll say about that for now, but I do hope that you postpone your decision and allow this to circulate in the community and for you to think about this a bit more. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions? Hearing none, we won't do a vote tonight. We'll move on to the next.
Can I just make one comment?
Sure.
So, I understand why, I deeply understand why people are talking about two of the members on our committee and they are abutters. But I just want to, I just don't think, it doesn't feel completely fair to me that I don't say a response, because I just want to address that when we have our committee meetings, I would never know that these two people are abutters. The discussions we have, I think, are extremely fair and balanced. Things are put on the table. Out of a majority of committees I've worked on in my lifetime, I would have to say that this is a highly professional, fair, respectful committee, and everybody is inputting. Everyone is trying to think what the broad aspect of the town. And so I just want to say to those two members of the committee that are abutters, in my perspective, I think that they're highly qualified, highly respected people of our committee, and that they did do what I think was right and recuse themselves from the site vote. And I do not believe in my heart that they had any unreasonable bias or push or any kind of anything over any other voters. I think everybody is strong on that committee and can stand on their own 2 feet and vote themselves.
I'm glad you brought that up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any more comments?
No.
Hearing none. Item 6, shellfish license allocation for 2025. Do we have the clam warden? We do.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Everett Leach. I am the
Chairman of the Shellfish Commission, and I am your municipal shellfish warden. The Shellfish Commission put forward the license allocation, pretty much just gonna keep the same as it was last year. Seeing things are working fine, and the harvest is good, and it's not getting dug out. So we saw no reason to change the allocation amount at this time.
How's the high flats doing?
That's not doing very well.
Oh, I didn't like to hear that.
I know, it's an ongoing, we've been talking about that a lot, about what we might be able to do to recruit some seed stock. We've talked with other towns, how they're doing seeding, what their success rate is with putting seed stock down, which is clams are only about 3/8 of an inch. They look like Rice Krispie size. And scratch the ground, put them down, and put a net over them, which keeps the green crabs off them for a couple of months, and then they're settled in.
How
We
long does
can't-
it take for the clam to go down deeper, to be
Well,
safe?
As they grow, they go deeper as they grow,
Yeah.
because they,
They need it.
You said it's a couple, 3 months for them to really be able to hold their own against the crabs.
yeah, the best, I mean, the green crabs can just pluck them right up anyways. But they're not completely out of danger just because they're set. But that first initial, when they set on that sand, is what we're trying to protect them and let them settle in. After that, they settle into the sand deeper as they grow.
And we haven't seeded in a while, have we?
We have not.
Yeah.
So that's something to talk about next budget season to see if there's something. But like I said, we've been talking to other towns and seeing what their success rate and how much labor time we can put into it and need to put into it to keep that seed stock there. A lot of theories. We're trying to talk with the state to ask why the high flats are not rejuvenating themselves. And that's an ongoing discussion now. And some of it isn't getting dug up. So it's turning to hard pan. So when a natural set sits there, when the tide comes in, they just get rolled along. So it kind of needs to get roughed up to be seeded and put it in.
So-
Define for me where the high flats are.
Right straight out from the observation at the
From the
pier.
pier, so it's that is
Towards the lighthouse.
Right,
Yeah.
looking at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What
So-
about back around the Stage Harbor area and those sands, are they there in the cut?
There are some between Reading and Trot. There's some good sets in there, but
But the sand on the other side of Reading
it's in the same situation of not rejuvenating fast enough that I would like to see to increase any license sales. There, you can go out and you can get some dug. Might take you an hour and a half, maybe 2, to get a peck of clams.
It'll take me 4.
And the walk is part of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
good for you.
Once you get across the little brook there, you're fine.
Yes.
High ground, but boy, I'll tell you, it's getting from the pier to the other side of the little brook.
You
Yeah.
get some pluff
Going
mud
across.
there too. It
What's
gets a
it?
little
You and
sticky.
I used to walk that.
Gets a little sticky.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's not a good place to try and cross.
No,
That
it's
cut
not.
there. You want to go up
little further up.
towards Reading more, yeah?
Yeah.
Because if you cross there and you don't take in consideration the time,
Yeah.
you will need your chest waders to come back
You will be
across.
wet.
So Everett, are the green crabs, are they on the increase or are they, do we know?
It's hard to say. Everybody, the state says they are. We haven't set any traps to try and catch any to take a measure. But that is one of the goals of us to do, is to set traps to help alleviate the green crab problem the best we can, especially around where we reseed.
We gotta find a good economic purpose for them so we can fish them and make a buck and get rid of them.
You can try. Compost right now is the best way.
Something, we gotta do something.
I did have success a while back selling them to some of the restaurants, and they, they went pretty good.
Yeah, green crabs for
Well,
Christmas
what they
time.
did was, these are James Beard Award-winning
Yeah,
sous
yeah,
chefs.
yeah, right.
They're making stock out
There
of
you
it.
go,
They're
there
not
you go.
picking the meat.
There you go.
They're boiling it for 4 hours with, like your mom would, a
You
chicken,
boil anything before
Yeah.
hours.
chicken body. Just boil it and
Throw it out the window after
sort
you
it out,
boil it.
strain it, and
Good.
So that's a small market, but
Yeah.
it's there.
Yeah.
But that is growing. I've talked with other,
So I have one more question. What do you think about day licenses?
that has
I've had a
been,
couple people ask me.
okay, yeah. That has been brought to our attention, and I've brought it up at the committee, and no pros or cons as far as anything that they're really worried about. We know that would increase some work at the town clerk's end of it. It would increase some work on my end, because usually the day licenses are the first timers. So that's when I want to be there, to make sure they got the right equipment, not using the wrong stuff, and they're in the right area.
And so how many days can they clam a week? Is it
3.
3 days, right?
Yep.
Okay,
There's 3 days offered, but you can only clam one of them.
okay.
So if you had a recreational license, a season license, you can only take 1 pack of those 3 days.
Okay. So what's the board think about doing a day license? Some people come up, and they might want to dig one day, one or 2 days a year, but they can't because they can't get a license.
But why can't they get why can't they get a recreational license? You're saying
They-
we don't have enough
We
of
sell
them?
out.
We sell out.
We still have the first.
In a few days.
Yeah, my problem, I don't know enough to have an opinion. I'd rather, what do you?
I-
I'd
The day
rather-
license, I don't have an issue against it.
You don't feel it's gonna damage the flats by having folks that don't know what the heck they're probably doing?
Well, there's gonna be a learning curve there, obviously, and I'll
They're
need to
not
be
gonna
in.
learn, they're leaving in a day. They won't learn them.
No,
So I
I
the
don't think
learning
you're
curve
gonna
is
have
I'll
that
have to
many.
be there. I'd
I
like
don't,
to,
Yeah, but then you've gotta be there.
We have a number of residents who aren't able to get licenses because since COVID, we sell out. And a lot of those people, I imagine, do not claim that often.
If they're residents, how about a residents-only day
Right.
license?
We're talking about property owners.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about Joe from Massachusetts
No.
coming up and
For
getting
the
a day.
day?
license.
No.
No? Oh,
All right,
Well-
residents,
I don't have a
Well,
problem.
why would we do day license and just not increase the number of licenses in general?
well, this is how I'm looking at it. Day licenses, you're not gonna see these people maybe once or twice on the flats. They just wanna go out and show their kids how to dig clams, have a nice day. You're not gonna see people out there all the time. But when you give a recreational license, they'll probably wanna dig a lot more, 'cause they enjoy it. But I would much rather see a day license. This is my personal opinion. I'd much rather see a day license than increase the number of recreationals.
So Alan, I don't, like John, I don't know enough about it, but I don't have a problem with the day license. If you don't have a problem with the day license for town landowners, not
Right.
people who are just coming to visit for the summer and want to go out for a day, I don't have a problem with that. If you're comfortable with that and you're comfortable with that, we need
we'll
to
have to
vote on
find a
that.
happy medium in discussion as far as how many.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they
Yep.
got, obviously, the town clerk will have to keep track of that. In other words, you can't have this, them wanting 2 days of that weekend. They can only pick one. And we can't have 10. We
On
can't
that
sell
one day.
30. We don't want to sell 30 licenses
Right.
for that weekend.
Yeah.
So we got to set a limit on the day licenses.
It's gonna be
Whether
some
it's,
software to track
5.
that. It's pretty easy, but that's not, yeah.
So we'll come back in a couple of weeks after the first of the year and
Well,
settle it.
maybe Everett could come back with a thought process on moving forward.
Anybody think about taking away some of the recreational ones and making them day licenses?
No.
It's-
There's
but
just
we
so
don't-
many
One,
people.
No.
also,
There's just-
one
I'm
theory.
concerned about over,
You're not gonna
Overclamming.
overclam.
Well, we'll see if we do. If we do, we can cut back on the days. Let's see how bad
Okay.
it is. I think it's, we can iterate.
It's not
this.
gonna be bad. It
Yeah.
won't be.
okay.
One argument with day licenses would be the few people that are buying the recreational license, okay?
Yeah.
The real property taxes, they're second homeowners. They can be here at 8 in the morning to buy their license, whereas a resident here is working, can't make it down to the town office. he's gotta take time off from work. But if we offer one-day licenses, maybe they won't buy this
Yeah.
seasonal license.
Yeah, I think that's.
That's
a
true,
good-
Because
too.
I've only seen them out on the flats maybe 3-4 times.
Yep.
So they've just, and whereas there are some of the locals would feed their family more than 3 or 4 times
I think that-
with
I
the
think that's
pecker
huge.
claims.
Yeah,
That's huge.
Do you,
I think it'd be a great thing to do myself.
I think it'd work out fine.
Yeah.
I think we'll try and find a happy number and,
Yeah.
and obviously, we'll cross paths
So-
with
would you,
So can I
Now-
just get an understanding of a day license? So a day license, we would say you buy a day license and it would be, you could clam Friday, Saturday, or Sunday of a weekend?
Nope, they gotta pick a day,
you pick a day, you go and buy it
buy
the
it
day
for
you want to
Saturday.
clam.
Friday, Saturday, or Sunday.
Pick a day.
You would have to pick a day.
And you get it only a week in
So
advance.
maybe they're here, they know family's coming, they look at the weather, they say, hey, we're gonna bring the
The tide's right.
grandkids out, tide's right, on Saturday.
And I'll go
They'll
get a license.
go into the town office to get the license for that day, and that's
And
the
then
only
we'll have,
day.
we'll have 10 licenses available, and have to figure out how we'll track this, and if they're the 11th, sorry, all the day licenses are taken, or whatever, but we ought to figure out what those numbers are and how we
Yeah.
would want
And we'll
to
check
measure.
with the state if we can do that for, residents only, or if they're just open.
Oh, that's
to-
interesting. I mean, they may not allow us to discriminate.
No, we gotta run it by them anyways.
We could discriminate.
So,
We
It's our
try.
town, damn it, it's our
Now, I'm
fault.
not sure on our timeline, Tracy would know better as far as letting the state know at the
Let them know after this meeting.
after this meeting.
And then they take about a month to get back to me whether they approve our recommendation.
Okay, all right. So would you want a motion, Alan?
I'd like to have a motion
so that
for
the
this.
schedule is in place
Yes,
with this thing,
yes.
and then you can come back and.
Yeah, perfect.
And give you a number of what we may have decided on a day
Yeah.
license.
And then it's
Or we know
possible,
what the state
we'll set
says.
it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll
But we're
try
gonna make a motion tonight on what you've brought forward.
And recommend that you move forward to look into day licenses
Yeah,
too. So
that's great.
Yep. Be
Go
glad,
for it.
that's the best way to do it. So whether the day licenses take effect this April depends on the state, how
Yep.
quick they get back to us.
Okay.
They haven't been the fastest.
Tell me
to-
about it.
Yeah,
So,
So,
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the shellfish license allocation for 2025.
second.
Have a first and second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? 5-0.
thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
We'll get back to you on it.
Thanks, Everett.
We do meet, January 12th, I think. it is.
Oh,
The second Tuesdays of the month,
When you say we, who's,
the commission.
Okay.
But I will personally try and get a hold of the state biologists
before that, so we can.
before that to get a straw vote from them.
Great.
See if they would
Great.
agree to it.
all right.
Very good.
Thanks, Everett.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, item 7, consider a change order to raise the elevation of Cape Porpoise Pier to increase the resiliency.
Yeah, so Mike Claus, our consultant employee, is here. And as you know, Cape Porpoise Pier construction has begun. We awarded the contract to Proc Marine. There was damage we saw from the January storms where we had over a foot of water on the pier and in the bait shed. And it brought questions about raising the elevation of the pier. So keep in mind that when we started this pier project, it was 2018. I didn't look quite so tired. And so
I hear you.
we hadn't at that time seen flooding at the pier. So since that time period, as storms have seemed to continue to increase in sea heights, we have seen the water flow over during some of these storms, and January was probably the worst. So the issue was, we had put the project out to bid, and as you all know, the project came in overbid, over our costs, I should say, over our budget. And so we were struggling to find ways to fund the current elevation. Since then, we were able to secure more EDA funding. I also was able to secure a working waterfront resiliency grant, which was brought forward based on the January storms. And so our engineer, Barney Baker, has done an analysis of what it would take to raise the entire elevation by 2 feet. And we have also worked with Sean Toohey from Proc Marine to come up with a cost. So in your, Mike, you can walk to the podium anytime you want. And so in your packet is a change order that we are considering. The cost is about $850,000, which is a considerable change. You know, usually minor change order staff handle something of this nature. We wanted to make you aware. We do have funding available through the Working Waterfront Resiliency Grant, but I would also just caution, we do need EDA approval in order to move forward. So we have submitted it to EDA. We are waiting for the committee to get back to us. Normally, they don't like a change order that's more than 10% of the project, and this one is.
We've met with fishermen, we've met with Alan to discuss issues with the Chowder House. I think we've got everything solved as best we can. The good thing is the working waterfront money will basically pay for this change order. You know, the state has been very supportive of the resiliency efforts. And so I think we're working well together. So I think once we hear from you guys that you're okay with raising the height of the pier, we can get back to the EDA and tell them the town is really on board and can we all get this going.
It was one of the main concerns
So-
I had with the old plan, was that we were leaving the pier when we knew it was already flooding, so I'm thrilled with this.
So I've got one question. Are we raising the deck on the south pier, or are we building a new pier?
We are building a new pier on the south deck.
On that south, all the piles and all the timbers are going away.
Taking out.
Okay, so,
They looked at the cost originally of just raising it, and what they determined is it would be so labor intensive, it would cost less to just rebuild new at the south end.
that's pretty, I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Amen.
So we need a motion to go ahead and approve the elevation to the change of the Cape Porpoise Pier.
And we have the money.
And we have
Yeah,
the
Laura, I
Okay.
just, so
We
we have
will
the money
have
from the
the money.
grants.
What's that?
The grants are paying for
I
The
can't
grant
hear
will
you.
pay for it.
The grant will pay
pay
for it.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
But do we have to wait for the ADA to approve it, or
I think we have to approve it before.
we have to?
We want to know that you're on board with it. Before we can sign, I would sign a contract change. I need EDA approval.
Okay.
So you are part of the process, but EDA also needs to approve it.
Okay,
So
but we're not signing the town up for another 850,000.
No,
Right.
It's covered.
Well, the
We
town
are.
is
We
the
are.
contract
The grant
with,
cover it.
but we have additional Working Waterfront Resiliency money because I had applied to EDA as well as Working Waterfront, and they both came through.
Okay. I like when I look down and you guys are all staring at me.
yeah, yeah.
How about if I make,
We're happy down this end.
I
I'll
see
make a
that.
motion to approve the elevation change to the Cape Porpoise Pier project.
I'll second it.
I have a first and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor? Did I see 5 hands? Okay.
You did.
Yep,
I just like that.
thanks.
I just like to comment that the stuff provided in the packet was very helpful.
Yeah.
You know, in terms of how the lines were drawn and where it was going to be raised. The detail in it was very helpful to understand what was happening. So thank you for
Are
that.
they gonna dredge it all to try to get a little deeper around the pier, or that's not necessary?
That just was dredged.
I was dredged beside the pier, it wasn't dredged under the, it would be on both sides, was it?
That's a good question, but I doubt it.
We are not dredging.
There's
We are
actually an
not
answer
dredging.
right there.
There's in no
Not dredging,
plans,
Is it
we don't
just the
have
way it
funding,
is.
no
It's
dredging.
Wonderful the way it is.
All right.
Unless you want to get down with your shovel
I
and
guess
dig
it's high-
away.
Sea level's going up anyway,
Yeah.
right? So what the hell?
We're gonna be higher
Right.
anyway.
Thanks, Mike.
That's right.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
Item 8, consider administrative consent agreement with Clayton Spang and Spang Builders. And here he comes. Hi, Galen.
Good evening, Select Board.
Good evening.
So in front of you is an administrative consent agreement for a violation that took place off Fairfield Hill Road. in Kennebunkport. It was a violation of a state law, not a land use ordinance change, so it's a little bit of a different ball of wax than we normally deal with, but in consulting with our town solicitor, we do believe we reached a compromise with the aggrieved parties as well as with the town. So what the creative solution is going to be is, because they were within that 25-foot buffer and they excavated an underground electric line, we are making the parties go back and do an underground scan of that area that was disturbed within the buffer of the cemetery, because there sometimes are unmarked graves. And then if there is any hits that occur because of that scan, they will do an archaeological excavation to see what that debris was. And then they will catalog that, provide us with a report and copy, and they will also keep a copy as well. The reason for this is in case there's ever maintenance on those electric lines in the future, we now have documentation that we have not disturbed any remains that were in that area. And so we think this is a reasonable compromise. We did reach out to our town solicitor, and they are also in agreement with this, as well as you could see the parties have signed the agreement that's in front of you. So I can answer any questions that you may have.
So they've already put the electricity in the whole 9 yards,
Yep.
right? Okay.
It already happened.
It was 2 feet
So-
deep, they just went down 2 feet, right? It wasn't that,
2 to 3 feet,
yeah,
yeah.
it wasn't that deep.
So
What
I
would- what-
need a motion.
No, good.
You have a question?
I was just gonna ask, what happens if they come back and they find out they've disturbed some graves?
We will be working with the State Historical Society on next steps,
Okay.
yes.
And hopefully at 2 to 3 feet, they've just gone over instead of through.
Or they don't have
Who
a
knows?
poltergeist situation.
They dug them up.
Anybody want to do a motion?
I'll make a motion to to consent to the agreement with Clayton Spang and Spang Builders for the problem at the cemeteries. I don't know, how do you
As
want me
written.
to define it? How do you want me to word it?
That's,
Right
I
here.
think,
That's written.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve the administrative consent agreement.
See how easy that was?
I'll second that.
I have a
Thank
first
you.
and second. Any more?
Oh, nope.
Any more? No? Hearing none? All in favor? Here we go, 5-0.
Thank you, Galen, for working through this.
So we're going
Yeah,
to be
thank
going
you.
to
Yeah,
the
that must
short
be
term.
You can't leave.
Might as well stay right there.
Oh.
So item 9, short-term rental website overview.
Yes, so I'm going to actually hand this over to our codes and planning coordinator, Nadia Crockett-Current, who is with us virtually.
Okay.
And she is going to give you an overview of the short-term rental registration process. We are going to a new software system, and so we thought it would be good to take you through a step-by-step process of what that's like for a resident that's trying to either renew an application or a new application. So Nadia, you have the
Hello, Nadia.
attention.
Hello, everybody. Good evening. So I'm going to share my screen here and show you guys what the application process actually looks like. All right, can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
All right, perfect. So this is the business center. So anybody that creates an account with GovOS, which is our new system, anybody that creates an account, when they log in, they'll see this screen. This is the business center. You can see it says business center right up here. When they scroll down, they'll see a section labeled open tasks, and that's where people find the actual application. So you can see I have a task that says read info message renewal. I'm going to walk us through a renewal application because this year it looks exactly the same as a regular application, except you pay the fee at the end. Our regular applications, like if people are submitting a new application, we're not having people pay the fee this year as soon as they submit the application. We're going to have them pay the fee once their application has actually been approved, so that if there is a reason that an application isn't approved, we don't have to refund them. They just haven't lost the money in the first place. So I'm going to start going through this application. So our first page here is an info message. We put this in here. This is just to help people understand what they're going to need before they start, so that they don't feel stressed out throughout the process, that they can have everything ready before they get going. So this year we are asking, this is a little bit different. We are asking everyone, including renewal applicants, to submit a floor plan, a parking plan, and a copy of their either an HHE 200 form if they have a septic system, or a sewer bill if they're connected to public water. So they'll need all those three things: the floor plan, the parking plan, and the wastewater information. Once people have all of those things, you just hit submit, and it brings you to the first page of the application. So this is pretty standard. It's just a regular application, kind of like you'd fill out for anything. And I am filling out an application for the current town hall because it makes a nice test account.
This is
So
a new revenue
I
item.
was gonna
Yes.
say, is it a revenue item?
Weekends.
We're gonna rent it out on weekends.
Well, as you can see, there's actually no bedrooms, so it's technically not rentable. So anyway, so this, I actually wanted to talk about the bedroom count quickly. This is something that I have heard some confusion from residents. So we have the fee for the short-term rental license auto-populates based on the number of bedrooms, which we pulled from our assessing database. Sometimes the assessing database pulls the wrong number of bedrooms. If there's 2 units on the same property, sometimes it merges both of those bedroom counts. If there's an ADU, maybe it will add a bedroom to the actual bedroom count. So when people have trouble, they can just call and we can get their bedroom count sorted out. And we have received a number of calls about that, and it's been an easy fix to just, I can go in on the back end of the system and quickly change the bedroom count, and then they can proceed as usual. The town hall does not use a property management company for our 0 bedrooms. This emergency contact information is printed on the license when people are issued a license. This is for people to be able, let me use April's email. This is for people who are actually staying in a home to know who they should contact if something is happening at the rental property. All right, so that's the actual information piece of the application is done. Now we go into our documents. So this part is pretty straightforward. You can just select files to upload, and it should bring up whatever files are on your computer. I have a little folder here that I have labeled that has all of the examples. We did provide people with examples of, so you can see an example here. We did provide people with examples of documents that they could upload. We want to make this as easy as possible for people, so we don't require building style floor plans. This is just something that I hand drew in the office. We just need to see that people have smoke detectors where they're supposed to be, a fire extinguisher where it's supposed to be, and that we can match up their bedroom count to what it says on their application. So it's a very simple floor plan, nothing crazy. So we wanted to make it easy for people and give people that example. Next up, we have a parking plan. So again, I gave an example. The parking plan is for people to see, for us, for the office to see how many parking spaces are allowed at each short-term rental property. We use this information to, if we get a complaint about parking that's happening in a short-term rental, we can use this information to see if the guests that are parked at a property are exceeding the limit of the number of people that the applicant told us they would allow to park on their property. So this is an example of a floor plan. You can see that there are 6 spaces here that are allowed for guests. And then on the other side here are spaces that we're reserving just for the owner. So people can do that. They can delineate a space in their driveway that's only for guests and a space that the guests aren't allowed to use. But we do require that people tell us how many spaces are available, not just show us the parking area. So again, I'm going to go into my folder and upload the parking plan. And I'll submit. And then the last thing we have is either there's a little bit of a typo here. It's actually an HHE 200 form. So people will either submit an HHE 200 form or a sewer bill. We're going to use a sewer bill. And that's the last of the documentation. So now we hit submit, and now it brings us to the fee. So because we, in our 0 bedrooms, have 3 or fewer bedrooms, the fee is $325. If it were 4 or more bedrooms, the fee would be $575. People can once they hit submit, it brings them to a page to actually input credit card information, and then they're done. Their application is finished. So if they come back to the business center, because excuse me, because I didn't actually pay the fee, it doesn't say that my application is finished. But if I had paid the fee, at this point, it would say this text here where it says pay short-term rental license fee would say that my application was pending approval, and it would be in red so that people can see where their application is at any given time. So that's the whole application process. After people apply, I'm currently working through review. I go in, I review the application, I review their floor plans, their parking plans, their wastewater information, and then if I have follow-up questions, I'll email the applicant. And if I don't have any follow-up questions, if everything looks good, I just issue the approval and people can go in and download their license. It's also easy to access the license from this business center. If you just keep scrolling down, you can see this section says manage your accounts. People can connect multiple accounts here. So property managers will connect maybe 4 or 5 or however many accounts they're actually managing. I only have the one connected right now, but you can click on the account you're looking to get the license for, and you can see that the licenses are shown here. And when you click on it, you open it up, and it shows your license with your permit number, your emergency contact, and everything else. So that's the whole application process. Do you guys have any questions?
So if I'm somebody who am on the list to get a short-term rental license, am I notified by the town that my number has come up and I can log on to the site and get a license?
Yes, so we have not started bringing people off the wait list yet because we don't know how the number of people that come off the wait list is dependent on how many people choose not to renew their license for the next calendar year. So our application portal is closing December 31st at 4:30. So after that, we'll know how many people have applied. And starting the first week of January, I'll be able to begin issuing those licenses. People submit an application, a full application. The only thing they haven't done is pay the fee, and that places them on the wait list. So yes, when somebody gets pulled off the wait list, we give them an initial approval that's contingent on them paying the fee. So they'll get notified that their application has been conditionally approved upon them paying the fee. They'll pay the fee, and they'll be able to access their license then.
So I've just built a house in Kennebunkport, let's say. I would go here, this is how I apply, this is how I get on the waiting list, is I would fill out this application.
The application looks exactly the same for renewal and a new application, except you don't pay the fee at the end for a new application.
How would I, for a new one, but you won't even ask me for the fee?
Yes, that's correct, because we don't want people to pay the fee and then not get their application approved. So it's much easier administratively to have the application approved and then have them pay the fee.
And so once Nadia reviews the ones that are part of the cap, and she determines that the plan was good, the septic was there, the parking was great, all the information was correct, she will then change that status to waitlisted, and then there is a time-stamped list of all the ones that are waitlisted. That way you know which order they're currently in. And your next follow-up question probably is, what did you do with your current wait list? The staff went in and entered them in time-stamped in the order that they were in our Excel sheet. So
When can you begin the whole procedure? What's the date that you can start renewing?
right now, it's.
But
Yep,
when's
it
the beginning?
opened, so this year it opened November 1st.
Yep.
So people have
That's what I
been
needed to
slowly
know.
renewing.
Yep.
And,
We've been getting lots of applications.
and so once you fill out once you fill out an application, I'm in the system, I actually have a license. Next year when I go in, do I have to upload everything, or is it smart enough to know that I'm already in the system and I'm just renewing it?
Right. So we haven't, again, it's been a few years since we've asked people to upload documents, and so some people have changed their bedrooms and things have happened. So we thought it was a good policy this year to get that information. But once we have it, we're also going to be doing inspections, so we shouldn't have that problem in the future moving forward with documentation-wise.
So then when people renew next year and they've already got a license, they won't be uploading so much?
Yep.
Okay, good.
Yep.
Thank you.
And do you have a question?
It's up to them.
Unless they change.
Yep, unless they change
They've
things.
changed
Yeah.
their parking or something, it's up to them to be sure.
And actually, that's one thing that I wanted to mention to you that was different this year is that because we linked it to their assessing information, we've been getting phone calls from people saying, well, I have this many bedrooms instead of what you have frozen, that you can't change it. And it's been a good conversation to have with people because some people had more bedrooms than what they needed and some had less than what they had. So it was a good conversation to have with people.
Gets it right.
Yep.
Do you have a question?
Jane?
You have to come up to the mic. Sorry.
Jane Evelyn, Brookside Drive. So I heard a comment, I just wanted to double check. So can an ADU be a short-term rental?
No.
So the short answer is no. The long answer is an ADU that was permitted or constructed before November 3rd, 2009 can be rented short-term. So mostly no, but there are a few exceptions based on that specific timeline. But certainly any new ADUs that are being constructed cannot be rented short-term.
Okay.
So why do we have that timeline? Because the town didn't allow short-term rentals with ADUs before LD 2003, so why are we?
They were auxiliary apartments, weren't they? Or accessory apartments is what they were called.
We always had accessory apartments in land use ordinance, and that was a provision back in November 3rd is when we allowed for that. So there was historically in
You gotta
town-
talk in the mic.
Historically in town, there have been cottages that people have had, like seasonal cottages. And so those were well in existence in some cases before we even had zoning. And so we had to allow them as part of their grandfathered status, that they still had those vested rights before we started regulating ADUs. So that's why that time frame moving forward. Accessory dwelling units, or accessory apartments as we call them, the real intent behind that with the state is, again, to promote year-round housing. And so you'll notice in your performance standards that for new ADUs, they need to have the 6-month permanent residency requirement. And so ones before then didn't have that requirement. Is that okay?
Yeah, so what I'm thinking about specifically is when people put on accessory dwellings, like I know in my neighborhood, they had accessory dwellings put on, they were strictly within, they could not rent them short-term. So now we're saying they can.
No. Well, the answer is no, you
No,
can't.
the answer's no.
Unless it was built before 2009.
Yeah.
Because 2009 is when that rule came in effect.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm missing a rule. So 2009 was the rule I was missing.
Yep.
Pre-2009.
Yep.
I didn't know they could.
They could pre, is what
Yeah.
I just
Pre.
learned too. Yeah,
Okay, so I learned too.
absolutely.
Okay, so I'm
Yeah.
not the only one.
Are there any hands in the,
Alan's got a question.
oh, I'm sorry, go for it.
So then the information about these properties that are the short-term rentals, are they available for the public to see? Is that information on the town website so I could go in and see if a property near me was a short-term rental and how many cars could be in the driveway or how many bedrooms they have, that sort of thing?
I have not been here in the past years that we've done the short-term rental program, but my understanding is that we don't put a list on the website. If people have specific concerns about a specific property, they're always welcome to either call our office and we can let them know if they have a short-term rental license, or if you know that someone has a short-term rental license and they're violating some rule, you can always submit a complaint through our website as well. But we don't publish a list of all of the properties with a short-term rental license.
So if an individual had a concern that there were too many cars or cars were parked in the wrong spot, they would need to take a picture, submit that to you, and you would compare it to what you have in your records and then act appropriately?
Yes, that's correct.
Makes sense?
Okay. And so then when people are reapplying or renewing, I guess, their license, and they've had a change of bedrooms, so then you need to make sure, say they have fewer bedrooms, they enlarged one bedroom, so now they have 3 instead of 4 bedrooms. So then the number of renters that could be there would have decreased. Do you check, or how is the advertising for that rental unit monitored so that you know that, you know, instead of having 10 people, they can only have 9 or whatever it might be?
So that's a great question. So our ordinance allows people to have 2 guests per bedroom and an additional 2 guests. So if you have 1 bedroom, you get to have 4 guests. So people, I don't know if you've ever rented through Airbnb, but if you look at a listing on Airbnb, it will tell you how many bedrooms are in the home that you're looking at and how many people are allowed to stay in that home. So what we can do is we have the system that we use also scrubs the internet, so it takes listings from all of the most prominent rental websites, and it compares what they have listed as their bedroom and occupancy counts against what we have in our system as their maximum allowed, that based on what they've submitted to us. So if somebody tells us that they have 3 bedrooms, our system automatically says that they have a cap at 8 guests that they're allowed to have. So the system does a lot of that work for us, and if there's ever any questions, we as staff can go in and review a specific listing to make sure that it's meeting the requirements based off of the application that's been submitted.
And then in the write-up for that unit, when somebody's advertising it, they might have 8 bedrooms allowed, or 8 renters allowed if they have 3 bedrooms. But they might say in the write-up that we can actually sleep 10 because we have a sofa in the living room or something like that, a pull-out sofa. And do you monitor that?
Yes, so actually the GovOS has an actual team of human beings that look at each of the listings for Kennebunkport, and they flag us. If anything is odd about the listing, they'll flag us and let us know, so we can see which listings need a review from staff. So yes, if there's something odd in the actual text of the listing, we'll get notified about that as well, and we can look at it and make sure.
Okay, good. And then you also monitor to make sure that the short-term rental number is in the advertising.
Yes, they actually check that as well. We gave them, when we signed up for this program, we gave them a list of all of the things that we needed to see in a listing, and they have that list and they check listings to make sure that everything is there. So if someone has a listing that doesn't have their short-term rental license number shown in the text, they'll alert us and let us know, and we can send out a message to the property owner and let them know that they need to add that into their listing.
And you're looking at all advertisers for properties in Kennebunkport. I know there are like some smaller local people who do short-term rentals, that it's not all like Airbnb.
Yep, I think that our system pulls from maybe 6 or 7 websites, so there are definitely some small ones. And I do know about some of the websites that have maybe like 4 or 5 properties on them, so I'll periodically look at websites that I know of as well, just to make sure that everything is good to go on those. We do our best to make sure that we are keeping track of everything that's happening, but most of the times if people really want to have a lot of renters and make sure that their property is being advertised as efficiently as possible, those big websites are really the best way to get that property information out there, because most people who are looking to rent are using Airbnb or VRBO or some other large short-term rental company.
Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Anybody hands up?
All of our Zoom attendees have left.
I have a quick question.
No. Really?
I know, go figure. Well, you know, it waited. So if we have somebody that has a license and say they're violating the parking rules and the town's having to go there all the time, and then they reapply for a license the next year, is there a threshold that we say, no, sorry, you're out?
Yeah, after the 3rd violation, it goes to the select board, and certainly you have the ability to revoke it at that point. And then if they are revoked, they have a 1-year prohibition from reapplying.
We approved that a few minutes ago, meetings ago. Months
So
ago.
I think we also just want to remind people that if they haven't got their license in, their application, whether it's new or renewal, They've got a couple of weeks left. Once December 31st hits, it's closed.
At
And
4
so
o'clock.
4:30 p.m.
4:30
Hard-
p.m.
hard
4:30
deadline.
PM. So remember, you had some people come to you in January and say, I was a day late.
And $1
2
short.
days late. Will you make an exception? And the board said no. So we really want to make sure people are aware they need to get it in.
Yeah, it's not 11:59 p.m., it's at 4:30 p.m. Close of business.
It's like voting.
Yep.
Doors closed.
Doors closed.
Well, you can't say
And we've put out information on the website. I've put out full video tutorials on completing the application and registering for an account with GovOS. And staff is here as well to help. I have gotten lots of calls and have helped lots of people through the application process. GovOS is also a great resource. Their customer service team, we actually have had great luck with them and have heard lots of good things about them from people going through the application process. They're quite helpful. So I've put their number up everywhere as well. So we've tried to communicate as much as possible with residents that this deadline is coming.
So do we have a view of how many have, that have had licenses or haven't renewed yet?
So, yes, the last time I checked, which was a couple weeks ago, and we've gotten many more licenses since then. We had, I think, still 160 or 132 rather people who had who currently hold a license who had not yet reapplied, which is out of the 413 people that currently hold a license is actually, I think, for about halfway through the application period is not that bad. So we've had a little more than half the people the last time I checked, but we are getting new applications in every day.
Thank you.
Thank you, Galen.
Thank you, Galen.
Thanks for the presentation, very helpful.
And Nadia, thank you.
Item 10, review member applications for planning board and growth planning committee. We have 2 openings for alternatives on the planning board and 2 openings on growth planning committee, 1 regular member and 1 alternate. The town has received 3 applications for the planning board, Mark Messer, Joseph Moen, and Peter Pfister. Any of you guys here?
Don't believe so.
We did not ask them to come.
Oh, okay. All right. So you guys have looked over all the,
They look good to me.
Applicants?
But-
Grateful for their participation.
and they're
Yeah,
all,
they
they're
all
all
look
good
good.
applicants.
Are we appointing 3 or 2?
So
2.
3.
we're appointing 2 each. We have a 3rd opening on growth planning, but not an applicant.
Right.
Okay. I move that, do you want some discussion, or do you want a motion?
Well, you can do a motion and discuss it, or whatever you want to do.
All right, why don't I put the motion in place then, that for applications for planning board and the growth planning committee. Now, which is the one that you say, I see 5 names here, and you said 4, so.
There's, well, no, I only gave you
We
3
have
for.
4 openings.
Right.
So if you look on page 4 of your memo, you will see that we have 2 to appoint to the planning board as alternates. Both will be alternates, with the term expiring June 30th, 2025. So the reason for that expiration date is we have to have them staggered, and we already have people at 26 and 27. So we'll review them in June like you do, and then they'll get a 2028.
Gotcha.
So I'm
But
sorry,
we
I
have-
misunderstood when I read this, so we have to choose 2 of the 3?
Yes.
I
Oh,
see, that's
okay.
a different ask.
Is the planning department going to make some recommendations, or do you want the board to make the recommendations?
We normally have the board make the recommendations.
The board?
Galen has talked to a couple of the new members who came forward after our newsletter article. But
Yeah,
it
yeah,
is a board appointment.
So I will make a recommendation that for the planning board, since I'm the liaison, that we make a motion to appoint Joseph Moen and Peter Pfister to the planning board as alternates with a term expiring June 30th, 2025. I have spoken with both of them, and I think that they would be a good fit.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you,
Okay.
David.
So I have a motion
A second?
I have a second. Any more discussion? Hearing none? 5-0. Okay. For the applications for the appointments for the Growth Planning Committee, we have Anne Marie Martin and Rob Winkle.
So one member would be an alternate, you need to specify which, and one will be a regular member. And their terms will both expire June 30th, 2025.
So who's our select board for this one?
Say that again?
Who's the select board rep for growth?
I believe it's Sheila.
Yeah, Sheila.
Yes. What would you like me to do?
Do you have any input?
Do you have any recommendations?
I don't.
Don't know either, okey-doke.
So I don't think it makes much.
So does it make a difference?
No.
Well, one is committed to go each
Right.
week and the other just fills
Do-
in,
Fills
but
in.
that's,
Do you want
That's
me,
for 1 year,
well, it's only for 6 months.
6 months actually, right?
Well,
So
I can
do
make.
you want to do it?
I'll do this one,
Yeah.
so it's not, all right, so I will make the motion to appoint Anne Marie Martin as the regular member to the Growth Planning Committee with a term expiring June 30th, and make a motion to appoint Robert Wengel as an alternative to the Growth Planning Committee with a term expiring June 30th, 2025.
I'll second.
I have a first and second. Any more discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? 5-0. That was easier said than done.
boy.
Yeah. Okay, item 11, Eric LaBelle. He's going to report on Route 9 speed limit changes.
Yeah, so I've reached out to the traffic engineer, as requested by the board, to get some feedback on trying to get the speed limit taken down all the way back to the Bedford city line, town line. The Randy did respond to me and provided me more information as to if we wanted to request a reduction in speed, that a new analysis would be done. However, if analysis is done, that is final. So, however, whatever the results would be final. So, also, I was also provided, well, it's a little bit of a slippery slope. I've been through this before where sometimes the outcomes are not what was desired. And
They might raise it, you say?
Could,
it could raise it.
Eric, it's 55?
It's 50, well, it's 45 now, so we've moved it back
But
between
the
Goose Rocks
intersection's
Road
45.
and.
45,
We're talking about 50.
beyond to Biddeford line, it goes up to 55 right
That's
now.
correct.
They wouldn't go above that, would they, or could we?
No, I don't believe they would, no, not on a regular route.
It's an opportunity.
Well, however, just keep in mind, so the feedback that I was provided before was that the dividing line when the study was done initially was approximately at Goose Rocks Road and Dyke Road was the break line between 55 dropping to 45.
Right, going into town.
Right,
Yes.
right. So the concern is, and the feedback I've been provided is the road is ample wide. It is very straight. There's ample shoulder width. It drives fine at that speed. And so, that's my concern.
You can't
right?
go beyond, but you gotta go beyond those, that's all very true. The road is very straight, the road's safe for 80 miles an hour, let's face it. But you've got the intersections, and you've got New Bedford Road coming in, you've got two businesses there, you've got Wolf, you've got 5 Acre Farms, you've got the fire station, you've got a lot of stuff going on. It's a safety thing. It's
Understood.
not a can it handle the speed question.
Right,
But-
but we're dealing with two different things here. We talked about the demonstration project at one time as well, and I committed to bringing some numbers forward and, you know, what that would cost
Yeah.
in this capital year here, in this fiscal year that we're going into. So that's one, safety around the intersection is one thing, whether the road can handle the speed that it's at, that's a different discussion. So I want to be cautious about what we ask.
So Eric, so what you're saying is, right now, from, let's just say, just beyond Dyke Road going towards Biddeford, we have reduced it to 45.
Yes.
Correct? Okay.
For
But
certain, that's for
400 feet.
400 feet from Dyke Road east towards Biddeford has been reduced to 45. Your concern is that if we pursue this with the state, they can come back and say it is 55 from the Biddeford line to Dyke Road, or they could even, right, they could come back and just say it's 55 and that's as far, so they actually move the 55
They take us back
closer.
to where we
They
were.
take us back to where we were.
They've already said that. We're already encroaching upon what they said, right? Because it was from Dyke Road all the way to Bedford Line.
So is there a way to, so I hear what you're saying, and I understand it, like John said, and David, that this is from a speed section. It's a very wide road. Shoulders are great. But if you're coming from Dyke Road and going towards Biddeford, you have blind spots. So is it a straight road? Yes, but you have blind spots. When you cannot see the turn into the fire station area. Once you pass the fire station going 55, you have a blind time before you can see people on bikes taking a left turn onto New Biddeford Road. You know, I've biked that. I bike it. It's cautionary. I've seen little kids on bikes. I have a huge problem with the state in this regard, and I appreciate you talking to the state, but I'd like to raise this either to our state rep or somebody, because it seems that, you know, from an engineering perspective of a road design, get it, understand it, but we're talking about an increase in business traffic. We're talking an increase of businesses that brought increases of kids on bikes and walking people, and all these little businesses that don't belong on a 55, that don't belong mixing with trucks going 55 miles an hour, garbage trucks going 55 miles an hour, lumber trucks going 55 miles an hour. Those trucks can't stop. And I'm getting to the point where I'm getting very concerned because I'm seeing too many close calls, and I know we've had this discussion about, well, there's no accidents. I've seen them with my own eyes. I've seen the cold call. I picked a guy up from the middle of the road that fell on his bike because a car almost hit him. If I didn't stop and get out in the middle of the road and help him with the guy that almost hit him, you know, the guy would have got run over by a car going 55 miles an hour. So I'm sorry, but I'm uncomfortable with this, and I understand that you're doing a great job with the state. My complaint's not with you. My complaint is with the state right now, and I need to understand, how do we get this at a higher level with the state?
I mean, the next level is, obviously, this is Region 1, this is our Region 1 traffic engineer here. What I wanted to make sure to put across is the tone and the sentiment that I'm getting back from the traffic engineer, not to get ourselves in an area that we really don't have any recourse, if you will, at that point where they just say that once the decision is made, boom, the gavel goes down. It's kind of the way it's presented to me.
I just feel like we're talking to the wrong person, honestly.
Perhaps,
I think we've got to figure out what's the path, like John just said. Yeah, we need to either reach out to our state rep and get them engaged and help us understand if there's recourse or if there's things. We just can't, the price of getting this wrong is too high, you know, and in 55 on that road, you know, I'm sorry, once you're in the middle of it, the sides and the width of it don't matter, because if you come over that crest and you can't brake, you are going to run into somebody. And I feel it's time that we have to take action here. I don't want.
I'm gonna take it from a home rule perspective. They're all good for home rule. Well, our home, Kennebunkport, is saying it's too darn fast for that road.
Yep. I provided you as much information as I can on this particular
I think what you've told us is
You're talking to the messenger
we
here.
probably should be cautious how we proceed. Maybe to Mary Beth's point, maybe we have a conversation with Tracy about, maybe she can talk to the
Maybe
transportation
we go
department.
for it, and if we get told no, he throws the, I mean, that gavel is
Right.
only as good
You
as
just don't want the gavel
person
thrown
who
down
throws
and
it.
moved back.
Yeah.
Yes, I don't want to get into that situation where we're pushing up against policy. We followed the policy, and then because they're very clear about it.
Yeah, no,
You know, so if it's a different approach, I mean, they're very clear that it shouldn't be a traffic calming. The purpose of reducing is not for traffic calming, those types, because of the data will tell you that vehicles will continue to drive that speed regardless if, even if you drop
That's what speed traps are for.
Right, there's enforcement, right, and that's the problem, right? So the false sense of security, you know, we talked about the demonstration project and things like that. If it's about having pockets where you can slow down and things like that with the proper tapers to get you, that is one alternative for those intersections. We can look at that, I can bring those forward, the board can vote on that. The, but my sense from the traffic engineer is that he is not, he doesn't sense that, he just doesn't have a good feeling that he would be able to drop it if they did a true study on that segment of road. So I want to make sure the board understands that. So a little bit up against going uphill on this one right now.
I think we probably should have a talk with our state rep and see if they can do anything to help.
Yeah,
Rather than
I
have
think-
him push the Department of Transportation
Yeah, I
to
think
come down
Eric's,
with it.
I think Eric's guidance is well put, and I think we have to see if there's another path.
Well, I mean,
Thank you.
But we do need to still.
No, but
take
I
a
think
step further.
we need to go talk and see if our rep can help us out or at least point us in a different direction. I think it warrants the board to at least look at that step. I think Eric has come back and given us solid recommendation on his solid guidance, being the person talking, you know, and we don't want this to go backwards. We gained 400 feet.
Right.
You know, so let's not lose the 400 feet at this point. And then let's, you know, at least we got one intersection down to 45.
You know, they say half a loaf's better than none.
Yeah, yeah.
But I'd still like, I think we owe it to walk the extra mile here,
So Jane, do you have a
Literally.
question?
literally and figuratively.
Come up. Up
Jane,
to the
come
mic.
on up. Yeah, stretch your legs.
Get those steps in.
I was just going to suggest that maybe it would be helpful to have a caution light, maybe at New Biddeford Road and at Dyke Road. You know, I don't think there are lights there now, but just that would, even though people sometimes don't see the signs at the side of the road when the speed limit drops, if there's a caution light, you can't help but see that. I don't know.
No, it comes back to the state, though. It's a state road.
Yeah, they'd have to put
Yeah.
that there.
What do you think about a yellow light?
It was
Probably-
raised in our discussion when Chris and I met with the traffic engineer, and the data just doesn't show it to be very effective, so.
Okay. I figured that's what you were going to say. Yeah. Okay, well,
Okay,
thank
Eric,
you.
thank you.
So to be clear, staff isn't doing anything else at this point, or?
No, we
Cool.
would like to, I think is it okay for a couple of us to get in touch with our state rep? And just,
You are citizens.
we are citizens, okay, we'll do that.
Okay, thanks, Eric.
We'll take that on.
Thank you, Eric.
Oh, and Eric has some other news to share with you.
Uh-oh.
Is this on the
Oh.
agenda?
Oh, no, this is trash.
Is this the,
Yeah, no, we've since had our inspection from the DEP again since last summer and such, so we
This
did
is our annual.
our annual lab inspection that they do. They'll come in and kind of review all our paperwork, review our lab procedures. They'll go in and kind of do a quick audit of our information. Everything came back good and solid.
So first of all, we had more than normal people for the inspection.
So we're
because of
talking
the
waste,
July.
so we're talking wastewater?
Yes,
plant?
we're in
Yes,
wastewater
I'm
land
sorry,
now.
yes,
Okay,
yeah.
yeah.
So Fred came back. He was on the inspection. He's also, they're training up a new inspector for us right now. So came down and met Peter, our new operations manager and such, and went through and they did their audit through our paperwork, found a few administrative things. We did, a test may have been done in December. We put it into the January because that's when the results came out. They wanted to put it back in December. That type of really very administrative level things. No violations that I'm aware of, no issues at this point. Treatment plant's running well. We've actually, we've implemented, I think, the memo that I provided you last summer. All those items have been implemented. All those measures have been implemented since.
And we had shared that with DEP, and DEP verified that those were
Verified
put
that they
in
were all
place.
in place.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah,
Couldn't-
our mixers
Get
are
back to
in.
John Crowder,
Our,
actually. That's
we're
what
now,
John was
our
talking
compost operation's fully closed now. We're actually hauling most of our compost has been removed from the site.
At no cost.
I hear you got a deal on that. That was.
Yeah, we were fortunate, yeah, I mean,
where
try
did
not
where
to
did it
touch-
get hauled to? Where did it go to?
New Hampshire,
New Hampshire?
yeah.
They brought some pretty good-sized trucks in there, I see.
They did, they were,
yeah.
they were bringing in tractor trailers.
Yeah, big ones.
To pick it up. We held back on some of the, we only had X amount of dollars, and we wanted to see where we were going to end up at the end of the year. We were gonna hold off on how much we were gonna haul off. They were actually, our vendor was actually in a position where they really wanted our compost and have been picking it up for us. At no cost. So we have a couple of truckloads we'll have to pay for. Other than that, every time one of those trucks leaves, it's about $3,000.
Yeah, I was gonna
so
say.
it's a significant amount of money.
Excellent.
So all that to be said, so our biosolids are now being hauled to landfill officially. So the centrifuges are up and running, pump station projects are done.
Both centrifuges are up and running?
Yeah, the mixers are in,
I need to
our mixers are in, and our SCADA system project is now, the SCADA system is all up and running now, our new SCADA system. And the last items is we have, I think that was on the capital plan for this year, was really just 3 control panels that we're upgrading our programmable logic controllers, PLCs, alphabet soup, but, so that's the last of our projects for the capital work that we're gonna be doing this year and finalizing, so. So everything's going well, everything's looking good.
You keep it moving.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you for all the work.
Are you up as item 12 too, though? Who's 12?
What's that?
Who's item 12?
It's
No.
just administrative.
That was 11.5.
Item 12, approve the 2025 waste hauling permits. And there were 3. There was, just lost it.
So there's
Casella,
Casella.
Noble, and Waste Management.
Yeah. So
And I'm looking to go ahead, staff recommends an approval, and I'm looking for a motion.
I will make a motion to grant the permits for 2025 for Waste Management, Noble, and Casella for their hauling permits.
Second.
I have a first and a second. Any discussion?
I just have a quick question.
Sure.
So how does this, this is just for all their trucks driving through town? It has nothing to do with our contract changes in?
That's correct.
Okay.
This
Perfect.
just
It's just for
allows
using
them
the
to
road.
collect trash in town.
Yep, got it. Thank you.
Yep. So I have first and a second, all in favor? 5-0. Okay.
Yeah. That they're right.
Item 13, approve the purchase of a fire turnout gear. Hey, chief.
No.
Good evening. So yeah, just looking for approval to buy our 11 sets of turnout gear. We usually buy 5 or 6 or so a year to keep it in a rotating basis. BLS, which is the state's OSHA, kind of looks at it, and our interior firefighters should have new gear every 10 years or so, just because of the abuse it takes and the things it's exposed to help keep everybody safe.
So do these have PFAS materials in them, do you know?
So the manufacturer that I'm going with does, but it's in the liner. So, sorry, let me grab, I meant to grab it on the way by.
I think everything has PFAS in it.
When you look at,
Yeah.
when we look at a garment, there are 3 layers. There's the outer shell, which is the brown, and stitched together is this liner, which is both a vapor barrier and a thermal liner. The only way to get to the PFAS in this would be as if you took this stitching apart and licked the inside.
Okay. All right.
And it's really weird because the federal government has already come out and said, if you want federal dollars, we're going to force you to buy PFAS-free gear. The problem is, when you looked at, when you read my memo, and I know it was, all the numbers were probably very confusing, but PFAS-free gear, those numbers are drastically changed, but not to the good.
Yeah.
To the bad.
And yeah, so both on the thermal protection it does, and the heat loss to the wearer.
Yeah.
Those numbers are down, and it's
ridiculous.
I don't. Yeah, it is. It's a little ridiculous. I would rather, as the person who's responsible for putting people in harm's way, I would rather wear that and have my people wear that than going the other way. And
This
Yeah.
way is a lot safer.
it's better for our wearers.
Okay.
Yeah. It's both, it meets, well, they both exceed the numbers you have to have for the garment to pass anyway. The total thermal protection is gotta be at least a 35. Our gear is 43.7, if I have it right. And for the total heat loss, which is talking about for the wearer, what it's wicking away, needs to be 205, and we're 290.
Yeah.
About every 8 points is when the wearer would notice that, boy, my gear's really keeping me hotter. And not so much on the other one, but the problem is the way these numbers work. If I wanted to get better heat protection for my people, which we could make that number higher. The problem is the total heat loss number, as the one goes up, the other goes down. There's
Yes.
there's no keeping, this one's great, we love this level, but we can't raise the other
Yeah,
without
so
lowering.
it's a trade-off. You find the right balance.
Yeah, and some of the problem is with the fabrics and stuff that are protecting our people, is we're actually getting into places and sometimes shouldn't be, because we're pushing the limits. We end up pushing the limits of the gear because we're not feeling the heat as much anymore. When I started 40 years ago, we didn't wear hoods, we didn't wear bunker pants, so you really felt a lot more of the heat than you do in today's gear.
Okay,
So, anyway.
that was my only question. Any questions?
No, we'll make a
Well,
motion.
now you started to say, we usually purchase a few, but you're going to purchase
Yes,
11
I'm
this year?
purchasing more because we didn't last year.
Right.
Because what I did was I looked around at what other vendors offered. The problem is I can't tell you that this coat, which is the company I'd like to stay with, they've been buying this gear since before I started as the chief, and in my other life, this is the gear we bought, that manufacturer. We didn't have, just to see what else is out there. They have some manufacturers have proprietary fabrics. It could be the outer shell. Changing that outer shell will change our numbers. Okay. Changing that liner will change our numbers. And some of them are proprietary. Some of them everybody can get. So there's no real easy way to say at $200 more or less, this is a better garment or not, because it's very difficult to compare apples to apples, because it has to be that liner, that vapor barrier, and that outer shell to get those numbers. But I wanted to take a look around because I want to keep all the vendors I deal with honest and make sure that we're getting a good price. And what it turned out to be, I still think, even though this is a little bit more expensive than the other ones, and some were pretty close, and some were $150 or so.
But this is all within the budget.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. And this is money that was put in, that we've been putting in every year. And I didn't put any in FY '25. Sorry.
23.
I didn't put any in
FY
last year. The budget we're in, I did not put any
24.
in because I had this surplus, so to speak, because I hadn't bought any the year before.
Gotcha.
You want me to make a motion, or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to award the fire turnout gear purchase to Global Manufacturing for a total of $44,375.10.
Second.
I have a first and second. Any more discussion? All in favor? 5-0.
Perfect.
Thanks,
Thank
Chief.
you very much.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you for the explanation.
So we gotta tell.
And the demo.
Will they put a
Item
label?
14, appoint Tracy O'Rourke
Lick.
as the Register
Liner.
of Voters for a 2-year term.
So moved.
Does she want it?
Second.
Does she?
I have a
Tracy,
first,
you
do
want
I
it?
have a second? Any discussion? No discussion. All in favor?
Thank you, Tracy.
Thank
Yay.
you, Tracy.
Good job, Tracy.
That's right. 15, review of subcommittees. I have a couple questions about that. I don't really know who all has subcommittees, but I'm kind of curious about who they are and what the subcommittee's duties are. And exactly why do they really need subcommittees? I just would like to know that reason. And I'd also like to maybe hear from the chair of the committee that has subcommittees to come in front of us one of these days and give us kind of like an update. That's what I'd like to say.
Can you just walk me through that again? I'm a little confused.
You're a little
Are you
confused?
talking like the planning board? Do they have subcommittees or
I don't know, I have no idea.
Oh.
All I'm saying is, I know that there are a committee or two that has subcommittees, and we don't know who they are
Okay.
and what they do, and we don't know who's on the subcommittees, and I just would like to just know.
So I was gonna bring up something during the open session. Can I bring it up now?
Sure.
Okay, so it's sort of in line with this. So I was gonna, in the open session for us, I was going to ask the fellow board members if we could introduce a process in the new year where it would be a committee overview for the board. So for example, the committee chairs would come in and talk about what is the goal and the mission of their committee, you know, refresh us on who's the members, talk to us about a quick status about what they're engaged in, bring in front of the board if they have any issues or barriers that they need the board to help with. And so this would achieve, I think, a few things. One is keep the board and committees, environments in the know. So we know, because there's so many things that go on in our town, I think we lose sight. The second thing is it sort of allows the board to be almost like an oversight where we can then see if we have some committees that are overlapping on some areas. And then it also allows the board to make sure that we're all on the stack of mail that we want to be on for the town for the priorities that we're setting. We only have so many staff members. We only have so many hours in a day. And I think we just have to make sure that we're all on the right stack so that we don't set maybe some broader view that, you know, we're never going to be able to attain in a yearly time. It doesn't mean that we're not going to attain things future. And then that would then also put into your request, Alan, the chair would say we have these subcommittees and these are the people on the subcommittees, or we would like a subcommittee to look at this thing. And then I just think that would sort of bring a little cohesiveness. And then probably the last point, it would, for those people that do listen to these meetings or read the minutes, it would make the public aware again of all of the committees they have going on. And then if they're interested, it would be like a self-promotion of these committees too. I just think it brings it a little bit more to the forefront. So I was going to propose writing that all down, put it in front of the board in a January meeting, getting more input from you guys, and then taking a vote for that to be a process, an annual process.
We can do that in January, I don't know why not,
Yeah, and
unless the board doesn't want to.
We may have to spread it out over several meetings. There are a lot of committees, but I think that would be good. I mean, to have 2 or 3 committees.
I'm just curious about the subcommittees. I just don't know anything about them.
Well, I think this would answer both, though.
Yeah, right.
So then you would be able to, I think it's a grand idea.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. What you explained is, I don't see a problem with that.
Okay.
I mean, it would probably be beneficial to us, be beneficial to the committees themselves, and to the general public. And maybe there are some we don't need, and maybe there's others that we need to find out. But it might help the public decide these are some places that we need focus.
And we have different types of committees, too. We have committees that were appointed by the board. We have committees like the Beach Advisory Committee. Those are actually elected members from the beach community. So there are different dynamics of committees. It's going to be important for people to know that and see that.
I think we just need to be up to date.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity.
What do you think, Sheila?
I agree with what they said.
Okay. So, do you want to have a motion? Do we need a motion for this? or do you want to wait till-
I'll take
bring-
the action to bring it back to the board in January. I'll write up something. You guys can, and I'll get your input into it and make sure you're agreed into the process. And then I'll send you out to it first before January meeting, whenever Lori has us on the agenda. And then we can make a motion to approve the process.
Good.
Got it. Thank you.
That's good.
Thank you.
Okay. Oh, item 16, accept the following donations. $50 from an anonymous donor to the general nurses account, $1,000 from Helen and Jim Sherman in honor of Carol Steele to the general nurses account.
So moved,
Second, with gratitude.
with
With
gratitude.
much gratitude. I have a first and second, all in favor? 5-0. Other business. David?
I would just like to let the town know that we have two employees who are here, David Powell and Michael Davis, who celebrated 15 years working for the town of Kennebunkport, which we all found out. And they make this show run. So
Wow.
a huge congratulations to them and a thank you for their 15 years of service. And I would just like to thank the Public Works Department. I think they've done a good job in the last couple storms. Small, good test runs, but the town. So you always know when you're in Kennebunkport in a snowstorm because our roads are clear and they are plowed. And I'll just wish everyone out there, you guys, happy holidays.
Thank you.
I took my open one, so I'm good.
You good?
Sheila, do you like that? I just like to say happy holidays to everybody on the board and out in the public.
My echo as well. Happy holidays all.
Sheila?
I would like to congratulate the KBA for a successful first weekend of Prelude. I think it all went well. I was at the tree lighting. It was beautiful. And Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, right?
And a Happy New Year.
I have just one thing. I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to make a motion to give our town manager, Lori Smith, $10,000 as a Christmas bonus this year.
And a big thank you.
And I'm going to say, she worked so hard, God bless her, on getting all these grants and all this money for the town pier and for the causeway. And thank you very much.
Very well.
I just also like to add on to that it was a banner year, maybe not in a good way. And without Lori's leadership, I'm not quite sure what it would have looked like. So we started the years with some major storms, and Lori kept us straight and on the narrow. And then, we went through some little wastewater thing in the summer time frame. So I just want to, thank her and also the directors and stuff to help guide us through that.
And we'll be taking that out of the Selectmen's contingency fund.
Okay.
And I would just like to say, as the newbie, she has been a wonderful help to me. Onboarding,
You've been good.
and I think this is well deserved. I think she has dealt with some tremendous issues since I've been on the board, and the amount of money that she gets and looks out for this town, finding grant money to get some of our resiliency projects and everything else in this town. So I have no problem with
And I would say, adding to all those wonderful comments, the support to climate awareness, to protecting our town, the leadership she's shown at the Southern Maine and pulling together our towns to work together to face challenges both today and in the future. Been a great job.
Yes.
So I have a first.
Second.
I have a first and a second. All in favor? Yay. Okay, that's all I have. What do you have?
Well, thank you very much. That's very kind. It really is a team that makes this community run. And the only reason I'm able to do what I do is because of the support of that team. And one of them is sitting right here.
Right there, oh, yes.
And everybody from the ground up works to make everything
But you
run.
need a good leader.
Sure
Thank
do.
you.
And that's where the Board of Selectmen comes in.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to pass out to the board tonight a document I was trying to work on in regards, there were some questions about how many projects we have going on and kind of what are the major things that I'm spending my time on. And so certainly, it's my job as regular operations to make sure we have fiscal oversight over the town. That includes our investments, that includes budgetary throughout the year, it includes our cash flow, especially when we're doing these large projects where we're not getting the funding until after. It includes the legal processes, our audit, our purchasing. We have 10 departments that I oversee. we manage and prepare for the select board meetings and try to make that as smooth as possible. A lot of effort goes into that. We have constituent services. You know, the only time people come to see me is when they couldn't get somebody else to do it. So it's never an easy problem. You know, we oversee a fair number of both part-time on-call and full-time. We spend a lot of time doing grant seeking. I have to assure that the town abides by state and federal law, and of course, lobby on the town's behalf. But what I did was I tried to put out a document that I thought was also important for if anything were to happen to me, like I won the lottery, that there's a document that explains what are these major projects that we have going on, what's the description, what's the current status, and what I tried to project was a timeline on them and how I saw that coming together. Some of these are more firm and some are more guesses. I've put them in the categories of building and construction projects. We have our resiliency projects. We have operational improvements that we're trying to work on. Then we have our strategic planning efforts, and then we have some ongoing legal issues, which we hope will not increase. And so I wanted to just share it with the board, so if you guys had any questions about things that I am working on, or whether this is not a priority for the town, I think that everything on here is a priority, and we're doing our best to manage it. I often call being a town manager like the magician who twirls the plates on the poles in the circus, and you know, your job is to keep all the plates spinning. And so that's what the plates are that are currently besides the normal operations. And if you guys have questions, you know, certainly you can follow up with me.
I think this is really good because I think this gives us the day-to-day operation view, are overlaid with big projects, because I think that's something in the new year and when we start the budget process, as well as when, you know, talking through the capital stuff that we talked about, that's where we have to start thinking about how much we put into the work funnel for the town each year, you know, and make sure our aspirations can match the workload of our town employees. You know, I think this is awesome. This is a lot of work to put this together, but this is a great thing for us to flex off us when we go through the budget process.
Yeah.
So thank you for this.
Thank you. No, I think that's important because I think, to your point, Mary Beth, I think when you sit on a board, a lot of times people come in, they have ideas, and everything sounds great. But this is great to know what actually the priorities are, so we sometimes don't just keep throwing stuff on the staff who are probably taxed beyond their ability to
Looks like
take
we
on.
did a little bit.
Huh?
It looks like we did a little bit.
Yeah. So I mean, you know, it's kind of natural, but I think this is helpful because
It is.
I think the select board also needs to keep that all in mind when new ideas come on. And
Right,
is what is
right.
being worked on by the limited staff that we have.
Yeah, so
And how
for-
do we take
yeah.
some of that off of them?
So for example, the timeline here too is important because, you know, before we take into maybe another major resiliency thing into the queue, we have to get another resiliency one to another point in the process where it's less, you know, it's less of people's time and it's more of, you know, we just have to think through this
Yeah,
stuff.
no,
So I think it's good.
this is excellent.
With the waste management piece is tremendous, just again, to see these timelines that we need to
Yep.
get in place.
Yep.
Just a lot of people.
Those were all the team planners I was sending you, all the tasks.
Thank you, Lori.
Done,
Yep.
Lori, thank you.
Is that all you have?
Thank you.
Is it Sheila's turn now, or?
What's that?
Are
want
you
me to
done,
go
Laurie?
on and
I
on
mean,
and
do you have
on?
any?
No, we want you to ask.
No,
No, it's your turn,
is it,
Sheila,
I'm just wondering, is it your turn?
to make a motion.
to
Not
make
yet.
the- Oh, not yet?
Sorry.
No,
No,
Oh,
I don't.
we have
Not
more?
done.
Oh, I thought
Oh,
we were done.
sorry.
no, we're
I
good.
didn't know if you wanted me to make a
So,
speech.
are you finished? Okay. So I need to have the December 12th treasurer's warrants. I need a motion for that.
Okay, that's what they were saying.
Oh, I thought you were saying
Move to approve the December 12th treasurer's warrant.
Second.
first and second, all in favor?
Move
Now
to,
you can say what you,
Now it's your
move to
turn.
adjourn.
Second.
first and
what's
second,
the
all in
date-
favor?
What's the date for our next
It's
Friday?
Friday, the 27th at 9 a.m.
Here.
Oh, it's the 27th.
That's right.
I wrote the 26th.